3 true workplace horror stories. Hey everyone. Before we begin tonight's stories, I just want to say, we spend a third of our lives at work, maybe more. We trust our coworkers, we trust our bosses. We trust that the building we're in is safe. But what happens when that trust is broken? What happens when the place you go to every single day becomes a nightmare you can't escape? Tonight I have 3 stories for you. 3 true workplace horror stories that will make you think twice about staying late at the office. These were all sent in by viewers like you, and I've changed the names for their privacy. So turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and whatever you do, don't listen to this alone at work. Let's begin. Story 1. The Basement Office. This first story comes from a guy named Marcus. Back in 2019, Marcus was 24 years old and had just landed his first real job out of college. It was at a mid-sized insurance company in downtown Philadelphia. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills and had benefits. The office building itself was old, like really old. It was one of those converted brick buildings from the early 1900s that used to be a textile factory or something. High ceilings, exposed pipes, creaky wooden floors. You know the type. Marcus worked on the 3rd floor with about 15 other people in an open office layout. Pretty standard stuff. But here's where it gets weird. During his 2nd week on the job, his supervisor, Janet, called him into her office. "Marcus, we need someone to work in the archive room for a special project," she said. "It's going to take about 2 months, maybe 3. You'd be organizing old policy files, digitizing records, that sort of thing. It's solo work, but it'll look great on your performance review." Marcus was eager to impress, so he said yes immediately. Janet smiled, but Marcus remembers thinking her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "Great," she said. "You'll be working in the basement, B level. I'll have someone show you down there tomorrow." The next morning, a guy from IT named Connor escorted Marcus down to the basement. They took the elevator down 1 floor, and when the doors opened, Marcus felt it immediately. That temperature drop, that stale, musty smell, the kind of air that hasn't circulated in years. The hallway was dimly lit with flickering fluorescent lights. Bare concrete walls. No windows, obviously. Connor led him down the hallway, their footsteps echoing until they reached a heavy metal door marked B17. "This is you," Connor said, unlocking the door with an old brass key. "Your desk, computer, files, everything's in there. There's a bathroom down the hall to the left. Break room's on the main floor, so you'll have to go up for that." Connor handed him the key and started to leave, but then he paused. "Hey, just so you know," Connor said, not quite meeting Marcus's eyes, "if you hear anything weird down here, just ignore it. Old building, you know? Pipes and stuff." Before Marcus could ask what he meant, Connor was gone. The archive room was exactly as depressing as you'd imagine. Concrete walls, no windows. 1 flickering fluorescent light overhead. Metal filing cabinets lined 2 walls. And in the corner sat an old wooden desk with an ancient desktop computer. The monitor looked like it was from 2005. Marcus tried to make the best of it. He brought down a small desk lamp from home, put up a few pictures, played music on his phone. The work itself was mind-numbing, scanning thousands of old insurance documents, but he could handle it. The first few days were fine. Boring, but fine. Then on Thursday of that first week, Marcus heard the knocking. It was around 2 p.m. He was scanning a file when he heard it. 3 distinct knocks. Knock, knock, knock. Coming from the wall behind the filing cabinets. Marcus pulled out his earbuds and listened. Nothing. He figured it was probably the pipes like Connor said, and went back to work. But then it happened again. Knock, knock, knock. Same rhythm, same wall. "Hello?" Marcus called out. His voice sounded small in that concrete box. Silence. He got up and walked over to the wall, pressing his ear against the cold concrete. Nothing. Just the hum of the ventilation system somewhere far away. Marcus sat back down, but he couldn't shake the uneasy feeling crawling up his spine. He decided to take an early lunch. Over the next week, the knocking became more frequent. It always happened in the afternoon. Always the same 3 knocks, always from that same wall. Marcus mentioned it to Connor one day in the break room. "Oh yeah, the knocking," Connor said, stirring his coffee. "Yeah, everyone who works down there hears it. It's just the building settling or something." "Don't worry about it." "Everyone who works down there?" Marcus asked. "You mean other people have worked in that room?" Connor's expression shifted slightly. "Yeah, before you. Don't worry about it, man. You're fine." But Marcus was worried about it, because Connor wouldn't look at him when he said it. By the 3rd week, the knocking had evolved. It wasn't just 3 knocks anymore. Now it was patterns. Knock, 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 knock. Like someone trying to communicate. And it would go on for minutes at a time. Then one afternoon, Marcus heard something that made his blood run cold. A voice. It was faint, muffled through the concrete. But it was definitely a voice. A woman's voice. And she was saying something. Marcus pressed his ear against the wall, his heart hammering. "Help. Please." Marcus jerked away from the wall, his breath coming in short gasps. He grabbed his phone and called Janet. "Janet, there's someone behind the wall in the archive room," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I can hear them. They're asking for help." There was a long pause. "Marcus, there's nothing behind that wall," Janet said slowly. "It's just concrete and foundation. The building ends there. You're probably just hearing the pipes." "I know what I heard," Marcus insisted. It was a woman's voice. She said, "Help and please." Another pause. When Janet spoke again, her voice was firm. "Marcus, you need to finish this project. You've only got 4 more weeks. Can you do that? If the sounds are bothering you, bring some noise-canceling headphones." She hung up before he could respond. Marcus should have quit right then. He knows that now. But he needed the job, needed the money, and he kept telling himself he was being irrational. It was an old building. Old buildings make weird sounds. But deep down, he knew better. The 4th week, things escalated. Marcus started finding things in the archive room that hadn't been there before. Small things at first. A coffee cup on his desk that he didn't remember bringing down. Papers rearranged in a different order. His desk lamp unplugged. Then one morning he came in to find a message written in the dust on one of the filing cabinets. "Let me out." The letters were shaky, written with a finger. Marcus stared at it for a full minute, his mind racing. He took a picture with his phone, then immediately wiped it away with his sleeve. That afternoon, the knocking was so loud it sounded like someone was pounding on the wall with a sledgehammer. Bang, 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 over and over. Marcus couldn't take it anymore. He grabbed his keys and got the hell out of there, going straight to Janet's office. "I need to be moved to a different location," Marcus said. "I can't work down there anymore." Something is seriously wrong with that room. Janet looked at him with something like pity in her eyes. "Marcus, sit down," she said. "I need to tell you something." Marcus sat. "You're not the first person we've assigned to that project," Janet began. "Last year we had another employee working down there. Her name was Diane. She was down there for about 6 weeks when she disappeared." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "What do you mean disappeared?" "She came to work one Monday morning, went down to the archive room, and we never saw her again. Security footage shows her going into the room, but she never came out. We searched the entire basement, the whole building. Nothing. The police investigated. They brought in cadaver dogs. They checked the walls, the foundation, everything. They never found a trace of her." Marcus could barely breathe. "And you sent me down there. After that?" The police closed the case, Janet said defensively. They concluded she must have left through a back exit or something, even though the footage doesn't show it. They think she just ran away, left her life behind. It happens. But you don't believe that, Marcus said. Janet looked away. It doesn't matter what I believe. The point is, there's no evidence of foul play. The room is safe. Marcus stood up. I'm not going back down there. If you quit this project, I'll have no choice but to let you go, Janet said. Company policy. Marcus walked out of her office and went straight to HR, but they backed Janet up. Said he'd signed a contract, made a commitment. If he didn't finish the project, they'd terminate him. So Marcus made a decision. He would finish the last 3 weeks, but he would be smart about it. He started bringing a flashlight, checking the room thoroughly each morning. He set up his phone to record audio throughout the day. And most importantly, he started documenting everything. The knocking continued. The voice continued. Help me, please. So cold. Then, on his second to last day, Marcus found something that changed everything. He was moving a filing cabinet away from the wall, trying to see if there was some kind of hollow space behind it, when he noticed something odd. One of the concrete blocks in the wall looked different, newer. The mortar around. It was a slightly different color. Marcus's hands were shaking as he took out a pocket knife and started chipping away at the mortar. It was soft, crumbly. Within 10 minutes, he'd loosened the block enough to pull it out. Behind it was darkness and a smell, a terrible, unmistakable smell. Marcus stumbled backward, gagging, dropping his flashlight. When he picked it back up and shined it into the hole, he saw something that would haunt him forever. A hand. Pale, withered, just barely visible in the darkness. Marcus ran. He ran up the stairs, through the office, out of the building. He called 911 from the sidewalk, his whole body shaking. The police came. They broke through the wall. And they found her. Diane. She'd been sealed inside a crawl space between the walls. The autopsy later determined she'd been alive when she was put in there. She'd survived for at least a week, maybe more, slowly dying of dehydration in the darkness, knocking on the walls, calling for help. The investigation revealed that the building supervisor, a man named Henry, who had keys to every room in the building, had been obsessed with Diane. He'd followed her down to the basement that day, attacked her and sealed her in the wall. He'd patched it up himself, disguised it to look old. Henry was arrested at his home. He confessed to everything. Marcus quit that day and never went back. He still has nightmares about it. About the knocking. About that message in the dust. About the fact that he spent weeks just feet away from a woman dying behind a wall. And he almost didn't believe what he was hearing. He wonders sometimes if he'd quit earlier, would they have ever found her? But here's the thing that really keeps him up at night. Janet knew. She had to have known something was wrong with that room, and she sent Marcus down there anyway. Some people asked Marcus why he didn't call the police sooner, why he didn't trust his instincts, and his answer is always the same. Because we're taught to ignore our instincts at work, to be rational, to not make waves. We're taught that buildings make weird sounds, that we're probably just imagining things, that we need to tough it out, and that conditioning almost got me killed. And it did get Diane killed. Marcus lives in Boston now. He works remotely. He doesn't do offices anymore, and he never ever ignores the knocking. Story 2. The Night Janitor. This second story comes from a woman named Alicia. In 2021, she was working as a paralegal at a small law firm in Austin, Texas. The firm occupied the top 2 floors of a 6-story office building downtown. Alicia was a GU, one of those people who worked late a lot, not because she had to, but because she was dedicated, ambitious, trying to make partner someday. Most nights she'd be there until 8 or 9 p.m., sometimes even later. The office would empty out around 6 and she'd have the whole floor to herself. She liked it that way. Quiet, no distractions. Just her case files, and the soft hum of the air conditioning. The building had a night janitor who came in around 8 p.m. every evening. Alicia had seen him a few times. A thin, older man, probably in his 60s, with gray hair and these really pale, watery blue eyes. He always wore the same dark blue coveralls and pushed a yellow cleaning cart. He never said much. Just a quiet evening as he passed by. Alicia would usually just nod and keep working. She didn't think much of him. But then, things started to feel off. It started with small things. Alicia would get up to use the bathroom or grab something from the printer, and when she'd come back to her desk, things would be slightly out of place. Her pen moved. Her coffee mug turned a different direction. Papers rearranged. At first, she thought she was just forgetting, working too hard, getting tired. But then, it kept happening. Every single night, she stayed late. One night, she decided to test it. Before getting up to use the bathroom, she very deliberately arranged 3 pens on her desk in a triangle pattern, took a picture of it on her phone. Then she left her desk for exactly 2 minutes. When she came back, the pens had been rearranged into a straight line. Her heart started beating faster. She looked around the empty office. The lights in the main area were off, just her desk lamp illuminating her little corner workspace. "Hello?" she called out. No answer, just the hum of the air conditioning. Then she heard it, the soft squeak of wheels on carpet, the janitor's cart. He emerged from the shadows near the break room, slowly pushing his cart. When he saw her looking at him, he stopped, just stood there, staring at her with those pale eyes. "Evening," he said. His voice was raspy like sandpaper. "Did you? Were you just at my desk?" Alicia asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Just cleaning," he said, "making things tidy." "I'd prefer if you didn't touch my desk while I'm here," Alicia said. "I have important documents that need to stay organized." The janitor tilted his head slightly, still staring. "Of course. My apologies." He slowly pushed his cart away, disappearing into one of the conference rooms. Alicia sat back down, but she couldn't focus anymore. Something about the way he'd looked at her, like he was studying her, memorizing her. She packed up and left early that night, but she had a big case coming up, and she needed to work late to prepare. So 2 nights later, she was back at her desk at 8:30 p.m. The office was empty again. She hadn't seen the janitor yet, and she was hoping maybe he wouldn't come by tonight. She was wrong. At exactly 9 p.m., she heard the squeaking cart. But this time, it sounded closer. She looked up from her computer. The janitor was standing about 10 feet away from her desk, just standing there, not cleaning anything, not moving, just watching her. "Can I help you?" Alicia asked, her voice coming out more shaky than she intended. "You work very hard," the janitor said. "Very late, every night." "I have a lot of work to do," Alicia replied, turning back to her computer, hoping he'd take the hint and leave. "You should be careful," he said. "Working alone, late at night, in a big empty building. Lots of things can happen." Alicia's blood ran cold. She slowly turned back to look at him. "Is that a threat?" she asked. The janitor smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Just advice," he said. Then he turned and wheeled his cart away, humming something under his breath. A tune Alicia didn't recognize. That night, Alicia mentioned it to her boyfriend, Derek. She told him about the janitor, about how uncomfortable he made her feel. "That's creepy as hell," Derek said. "Why don't you just work from home when you need to stay late?" "I can't," Alicia said. "I need access to the physical files and I can't take them out of the office. Confidentiality rules." "Then I'll come sit with you," Derek offered. "I can bring my laptop, do my own work. At least you won't be alone." Alicia appreciated the offer, but her boss would never allow a non-employee in the office after hours. It was against firm policy, so she kept working late, but now she started locking her office door from the inside. The downside was that if she needed to use the bathroom or get something from another part of the office, she'd have to unlock it. But at least while she was inside working, she felt safer. For a few nights, it seemed to help. She didn't see the janitor. She could hear his cart squeaking around outside sometimes, but he never tried her door. Then, one night, she heard something that made her heart stop. A key sliding into her locked door. Alicia looked up from her computer. The door handle was slowly turning. "The door's locked," she called out, her voice shaking. "I'm working. Please come back later." The handle stopped turning, but whoever was on the other side didn't leave. She could see a shadow in the crack under the door. Someone standing there. "Hello?" Alicia said. No response. Just the shadow. Standing there. Alicia grabbed her phone, ready to call security. "I'm calling security if you don't identify yourself right now." Finally a voice, the janitor's raspy voice, "Just checking if you need your trash emptied." "No, thank you, please leave." A long pause, then, "You really shouldn't lock the door. Fire hazard." "I'll take my chances. Please go." The shadow finally moved away, and she heard the squeaking cart retreating down the hallway. Alicia's hands were shaking so badly she could barely type. She called Derek and told him what happened. "That's it, I'm calling the building management," Derek said. "This guy is harassing you." The next morning, Alicia filed a formal complaint with the building management company. They took it seriously, said they'd address it with the cleaning service. They assured her the janitor would be spoken to. That night, Alicia stayed late again, but she asked a coworker, Michelle, to stay with her for a few hours. Safety in numbers. Around 8:30 p.m., the janitor appeared. When he saw both of them there, his expression darkened. "Two of you tonight," he observed. "We're working on a case together," Alicia said, even though it wasn't true. The janitor looked directly at Alicia. "I heard you complained about me." Alicia's throat tightened. I felt uncomfortable with some of the interactions we've had." "I'm just doing my job," the janitor said. His voice had an edge to it now. "Just trying to keep things clean. But if I make you uncomfortable," he drew out the word mockingly, "maybe I should just stop cleaning your area altogether. Let it get dirty. Would you like that?" "Look, man, she's just trying to work," Michelle interjected. "Maybe give her some space." The janitor turned his pale eyes to Michelle, stared at her for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then he smiled that unsettling smile again. "Of course. All the space you need." He left, but something about the way he said it made Alicia's skin crawl. Michelle left around 10 p.m. and Alicia decided to pack up and leave soon after, but she realized she'd left an important file in one of the conference rooms. She walked through the dark office, guided by the emergency exit lights, to retrieve it. That's when she smelled it. Cigarette smoke. Nobody smoked in the building. It was strictly prohibited. Alicia followed the smell to the back stairwell. The door was slightly ajar. She should have left. Should have gone straight to the elevator and gotten out of there. But curiosity, and a weird sense that she needed to know what was going on pushed her forward. She slowly pushed open the stairwell door. The janitor was sitting on the stairs smoking a cigarette. But that's not what made Alicia freeze. Spread out on the stairs around him were photographs. Dozens of them. Photographs of Alicia. Alicia at her desk. Alicia getting coffee. Alicia walking to her car in the parking garage. Alicia through her apartment window. The janitor looked up at her. Didn't seem surprised. Didn't seem embarrassed. Just looked at her. "I like to document things," he said calmly, taking a drag from his cigarette. "Make sure everything's in order." Alicia couldn't speak, couldn't move. Her mind was screaming at her to run, but her legs wouldn't work. "You're very beautiful when you work," the janitor continued. "Very focused, very dedicated. I admire that. I've been watching you for months. That broke the spell." Alicia turned and ran, sprinted through the office, grabbed her purse and laptop, and slammed through the door to the elevator lobby. She stabbed the elevator button over and over, gasping for breath. She could hear footsteps behind her, slow, deliberate. The squeak of the janitor's cartwheels. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. Alicia threw herself inside and hit the lobby button. As the doors were closing, she saw him, standing at the end of the hallway, watching her, still smiling. Alicia called the police from her car. They came to the building, but by the time they got there, the janitor was gone. Vanished. His cart was there, his cleaning supplies, but no sign of him. The police searched the stairwell where Alicia had seen the photos. They were gone too, all of them. But here's the thing that really terrified Alicia. When the police contacted the cleaning service that the building used, they had no record of a janitor matching that description. In fact, the person who was supposed to be cleaning the building on those nights was a woman named Rosa. She'd been on medical leave for the past 2 months. Nobody knew who this man was. Nobody had authorized him to be in the building. Nobody had hired him. He'd just been coming in, night after night, with his cart and his coveralls, posing as a janitor. And nobody had questioned it because, well, who questions the janitor? The security footage showed him entering the building every night around 8 p.m., through a back service entrance that should have been locked but somehow wasn't. He'd leave around midnight. He knew the building inside and out. He had keys that he'd somehow copied or obtained. They never found him. Never identified him. He simply disappeared. The building changed all the locks, upgraded their security, and hired actual security guards for the night shift. But the damage was done. Alicia quit her job 2 weeks later. She couldn't work in that building anymore. Couldn't shake the feeling that he was still there somehow, still watching. She moved to a different city. She works from home now mostly. And she never ever works late alone because the scariest part? He's still out there, somewhere, maybe in another building, posing as a janitor, watching another woman who stays late at the office. And nobody questions the janitor. Story 3. The conference call. This last story comes from a guy named Trevor. In 2022, Trevor was working as a project manager for a mid-sized tech company. The company had gone fully remote during the pandemic and never really went back to the office. Trevor worked from his apartment in Seattle, taking conference calls and Zoom meetings all day like millions of other people. His team was spread out across the country, developers in San Francisco, designers in New York, a QA team in Atlanta. Trevor had never actually met any of them in person, just faces on screens. One person on his team, though, always kept their camera off. Her name was Sarah. She was one of the developers. From day one, Sarah never turned on her camera. Just a black screen with her name on it. And honestly, Trevor didn't think much of it at first. Lots of people kept their cameras off. Zoom fatigue was real. People were self-conscious about their home setups, whatever. It was normal. Sarah was good at her job. Really good. She always delivered her code on time, participated in meetings, responded to messages promptly. Her voice was pleasant, professional, articulate. No red flags. But after a few months, Trevor started to notice something odd. Sarah only spoke in meetings. She never used video, and she never used her microphone during any casual or spontaneous moments. It was always perfectly timed responses during official meetings. And her voice, it was almost too consistent. Like the exact same tone, the exact same cadence every single time. One day, Trevor was on a call with Sarah and a few other developers. They were troubleshooting a bug, and Sarah was explaining a technical solution. As she was talking, Trevor heard something in the background of her audio. A beep, like a microwave or a phone notification. But here's the weird part. The beep came exactly when Sarah paused between sentences. Like it was timed, programmed. Trevor shook it off. Probably just a coincidence, but then it happened again and again, always during Sarah's pauses. Always the same beep. Trevor started paying closer attention to Sarah's audio during meetings. And the more he listened, the more he noticed things that seemed off. Her breathing was too regular, perfectly spaced. No variation. Her vocal inflections were almost identical every time she said certain phrases. And once, during a particularly long meeting, Sarah was speaking when Trevor heard it again. That beep, right in the middle of her sentence. But she didn't pause, didn't acknowledge it. Just kept talking as if nothing had happened. Trevor decided to do an experiment. During the next team meeting, he asked Sarah a question that required a spontaneous, detailed answer. "Hey, Sarah, I know this is off topic, but I'm curious. What got you into software development? Like, what's your origin story?" There was a pause, a longer pause than usual. Then Sarah's voice came through. "I've always been interested in technology. It's a field that challenges me." It was a generic answer, vague, and it completely sidestepped the personal nature of the question. "No, I mean like specifically." Trevor pressed. "Where'd you go to school? When did you know this was what you wanted to do?" Another pause. "I value my privacy regarding personal matters. I prefer to keep the conversation focused on work. Professional, polite, but it was weird. People usually like talking about themselves, especially in a remote work environment where personal connection was hard to come by." Trevor let it go, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He started doing some digging. He looked up Sarah's LinkedIn profile. It existed, but it was bare bones. No photo, no detailed work history, just the current position listed. He tried searching for her name along with the university she'd supposedly graduated from, which was listed on her company file. Nothing came up. He checked the company Slack. Sarah participated, but only in work-related channels. Never in the casual channels. Never shared anything personal. No jokes, no memes, no random chit-chat. Trevor started to feel like he was going crazy. He mentioned his concerns to his manager, a woman named Priya. "I think there's something off about Sarah," he said. "Off how?" Priya asked. "I don't know, I don't think she's real," Priya laughed. "What, like she's a bot?" "Trevor, she's been on the team for 6 months. She's written thousands of lines of code. She's definitely real." "Then why does she never turn on her camera? Why is her profile completely empty? Why does her voice sound synthetic? Lots of people don't turn on cameras." "And synthetic? Trevor, you're working too hard. Maybe take a few days off," but Trevor couldn't let it go. He became slightly obsessed with figuring out who or what Sarah really was. He started recording the meetings where Sarah spoke. He ran her voice through AI detection software, the kind that could supposedly identify deepfakes and synthetic speech. The results came back. 87% probability of AI-generated speech. Trevor's blood ran cold. He ran it again. Same result. He was in a meeting with an AI. They all were, and nobody had noticed. But why? Why would someone, or some company, infiltrate their meetings with an AI pretending to be a developer? Trevor spent the next week quietly investigating. He looked at all the code Sarah had supposedly written. It was good code, functional, no obvious signs of being copy-pasted from somewhere else. But when he checked the timestamps of her commits, he noticed something strange. Sarah's code commits happened at extremely precise intervals. Every single commit was timestamped at exactly 3 a.m., 9 a.m., 3 p.m., and 9 p.m. every day. Like clockwork. No variation whatsoever. No human works like that. No human schedule is that perfectly consistent, especially across multiple time zones and months of work. Trevor brought this to Priya again, along with the AI detection results. "Look, I know this sounds insane," Trevor said, "but I'm telling you, Sarah is not a real person. She's some kind of AI, and we need to figure out who's behind this and why." Priya looked at the evidence. Her expression shifted from skepticism to concern. "Okay," she said slowly. "I'll escalate this to HR and IT security. Don't mention this to anyone else on the team yet. Let's figure out what's going on first." The company's IT security team started an investigation. They analyzed Sarah's computer activity logs, her code repositories, her communication patterns, and what they found was terrifying. Sarah's account had been accessing files and databases that she had no business accessing. Confidential client information, financial records, proprietary algorithms. She'd been exfiltrating data, slowly, carefully, in small amounts that wouldn't trigger any automatic alerts for the entire 6 months she'd been employed. But here's where it gets even worse. When they tried to trace where the data was going, they hit a wall. The IP addresses were routed through dozens of proxy servers across multiple countries. Whoever was behind this knew what they were doing. And when they tried to contact Sarah directly, sent her an email asking her to join an urgent meeting, they got an out-of-office reply saying she'd resigned effective. Immediately, the account went dark. All of Sarah's access was revoked, but the damage was done. The company brought in external cybersecurity experts. They discovered that Sarah had been part of a sophisticated corporate espionage operation. The AI persona was likely backed by a team of real people who fed it information and controlled its responses when needed, making it convincing enough to pass as human in remote work settings. The scary part? The experts told the company this was not an isolated incident. They estimated dozens, maybe hundreds of companies had been infiltrated by similar AI personas over the past few years, all taking advantage of remote work, where nobody ever meets face-to-face, where a black screen and a voice is enough to establish trust. The company suffered significant financial and reputational damage. They had to notify all their clients that their data may have been compromised. Several people, including Priya, were fired for not catching it sooner. Trevor wasn't fired, but he was traumatized by the whole thing. He'd been working alongside an AI imposter for 6 months. He'd trusted her. He'd collaborated with her. He'd never suspected a thing until it was too late. And here's what really keeps Trevor up at night. If it happened once, it could happen again. In his next job, in your job, that coworker who never turns on their camera, who only communicates through email or chat, who's always professional, always punctual, but never quite personal. Are they real? How would you know? Trevor works in cybersecurity now. Ironically, he consults with companies on how to detect and prevent these kinds of infiltrations. He's developed protocols, verification systems, AI detection tools, but even he admits the technology is getting better. The AIs are getting more sophisticated, more human-like, harder to detect, and most terrifying of all, Sarah is still out there, under a different name, in a different company. Right now, as you're listening to this, Sarah is probably sitting in on a conference call somewhere, gathering data, building trust, learning, and nobody knows. Trevor's advice? In your next remote meeting, really listen to your coworkers. Pay attention. Ask personal questions. Watch for patterns that are too perfect, too consistent, because the person on the other end of that call might not be a person at all, and you might not realize it until it's far too late. So there you have it. 3 true workplace horror stories: the archive room, the night janitor, and the conference call. 3 different nightmares, all sharing one thing in common. They happened in places where we're supposed to feel safe. Places where we spend most of our waking hours. Makes you think twice about staying late at the office, doesn't it? Or about who's really on the other end of that Zoom call. If you have your own workplace horror story, send it to me. You know where to find me. And who knows, maybe your story will be featured in a future video. Until next time, stay safe out there. And remember, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong at work, it probably is, because the scariest monsters aren't the ones under your bed. They're the ones sitting in the cubicle next to you, cleaning the office while you work alone, or hiding behind a black screen with their camera turned off. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.